Greetings to all fans of mystery and intrigue. Soviet engineers set a natural gas pit on fire, expecting the flames to die out in a few days. However, 53 years later, Darvaza is still burning. In the heart of the Karakum Desert, near the small village of Darvaza, which means gate in Turkmen, a story of strange and eternal flames began with a typically Soviet drive for progress. It was 1971, and a group of Soviet geologists ventured deep into Turkmenistan to explore vast reserves of natural gas hidden beneath ancient sands. Due to surveyors' miscalculations, oil workers unleashed a true devil from the depths. At first, everything went according to plan. The drilling site was carefully chosen, a small desert area that seemed to hold riches capable of supplying gas for decades. The geologists set up camp, and the engineers installed a drilling rig. The work began without hesitation. The drill pierced the ground, creating wells for natural gas extraction. At that time, the USSR was already hooked on the oil needle, with oil's share of Soviet exports increasing from 17% to 31%. So this wasn't a purely scientific experiment like the Kola superdeep borehole, but purely an economic interest. But something went wrong. A void, likely formed during the solidification of gas-saturated lava and hidden beneath the Earth's surface, turned out to be a treacherous trap. The ground under the drilling rig collapsed, forming a huge crater that instantly filled with poisonous gases. The camp fell into the sinkhole, burying the equipment. Although there were no human casualties that day, the lives of the local residents were greatly affected. A 20-meter deep, about the height of a 7-story building, and 60-meter wide, half the size of a football field, hole appeared in the ground. Just 270 kilometers north of Ashgabat, the capital of the Turkmen SSR, methane began to be released into the atmosphere in a powerful stream. The geologists understood the danger. Setting the gas on fire seemed like the only viable solution. They hoped to prevent the spread of toxins in the air. They expected the gas to burn off completely in a few days. However, what was supposed to be a short-lived blaze turned into an unquenchable fire. The flame, ignited by human hands, consumed the crater and continued to rage day after day, night after night. No one could have imagined that this fire would burn not for weeks, not for months, but for decades. First, natural gas rises from the depths of the earth into the Darvaza well, where it catches fire and begins to burn. As it ignites, it separates into numerous flames that shoot upwards. In 2004, by order of Turkmenbashi, the village of Darvaza was relocated. And a few years later, in 2010, the president of Turkmenistan ordered that the issue with the gates of hell be resolved and a specific, scientifically grounded plan developed to eliminate the anomaly, which is not only dangerous for the environment but also negatively impacts gas production in other fields in the region, simply depleting them. For unknown reasons, this plan was never implemented. More than 50 years have passed since then, and the gates of hell, as locals aptly named this place, continue to burn. During this time, there has been much discussion about why it hasn't been extinguished. The emissions of carbon dioxide and other substances that escape from the crater day after day contribute to atmospheric pollution. The air over the Karakum Desert is saturated with hydrocarbons. Birds don't sing here, trees don't grow, and animals, sensing the harmful smell, steer clear of this place. Within a 100-kilometer radius, there is a lifeless zone. Anything that falls into Darvaza is unlikely to ever come out. There are several reasons why the crater remains in its current state. Extreme tourism enthusiasts are impressed by all of this, flames bursting from the ground and boiling mud. Poetic souls call it the shining of the Karakums. A materialist might explain the origin of the biblical burning bush with which Moses spoke, right here. In 2022, the president of Turkmenistan publicly stated that this couldn't go on and tasked the oil and gas sector's curator with solving the issue. But is it really that simple to do? Attempts have been made repeatedly. However, environmentalists haven't been silent all this time. On the contrary, they constantly remind humanity of the harmful effects of the Darvaza crater on the environment and people's health. Perhaps the president was moved by their concerns, or maybe he just wanted to calm everyone down, but in his public statement, he mentioned not only the environmental damage, but also the economic impact. But even if we follow the logic of the Turkmen authorities, extinguishing Darvaza shouldn't be difficult. The gas isn't under pressure, it's just seeping out. So, they could bring in a few dump trucks of water and douse the gates of hell. However, methane would continue to flow, and the first discarded cigarette butt or match would restart the process. If they sealed the hole with concrete, the gas would accumulate over a few years, leading to an explosion of destructive proportions. And it's impossible to predict where exactly this would happen and what casualties it might cause. If a pipe were installed under the concrete dome to siphon the gas for industrial use, that might make sense, but many experts would argue that it's not economically feasible. Over the past 50 years, several million cubic meters of gas have burned up there. According to some geologists, the issue could be resolved with a controlled explosion that would collapse the crater walls and fill the methane hole. But this wouldn't completely solve the problem. Gas would still slowly seep out. Experts believe that trying to address the gas issue is like attempting to change the course of rivers. The consequences could be unpredictable. While scientists ponder how to extinguish Turkmenistan's fiery Darvaza crater, in late autumn of 2013, Canadian adventurer and National Geographic explorer George Kourounis decided to walk through the gates of hell and descend to the bottom of the crater. The goal of his expedition was to collect soil samples from the bottom of the fiery pit for further study to determine whether any organisms could survive in such conditions. To descend to the bottom of the fiery crater, Kourounis had to thoroughly prepare, including obtaining permits, assembling a team, and preparing and testing equipment. It took over a year and a half to get everything ready. George Kourounis was an experienced mountaineer, but even so, he trained extensively for this unusual descent. He repeatedly rappelled down the gorge of a local mountain river using specialized climbing gear, wearing a heat-resistant suit and carrying breathing apparatus. His clothing and other equipment were made of Kevlar, a special material with high density that can withstand temperatures of around 500 degrees Celsius. Kourounis also hired a stuntman to set him on fire during training, so he wouldn't panic when he eventually found himself in the flaming crater of Darvaza. Despite careful and lengthy preparation, the descent was challenging and felt like a journey to another planet. George descended to the crater's bottom using a winch system. According to him, there was no time to be scared. He was too busy monitoring his breathing apparatus, the ropes he was using to descend, filming video footage, and so on. Like Orpheus from ancient Greek myths, who ventured into the underworld for his beloved, George embarked on a dangerous journey. But unlike the curious Greek, he didn't return alone. He not only collected soil samples, but also discovered unique bacteria that don't live on the Earth's surface, but thrive at the bottom of the scorching crater. This discovery was particularly important for the study of other planets. Apparently, the conditions on planets outside our solar system are remarkably similar to the Darvaza gas crater. Upon his return, Kourounis dubbed the gates of hell the Colosseum of Fire, as thousands of small flames burn all around. And surprisingly, there's no smoke to be seen, only the sound, a powerful, ominous noise resembling the roar of a jet engine. The Darvaza gas crater stands apart from many natural landmarks around the world, primarily due to its sense of peace and untouched nature. There are no paid parking lots, walking paths, fences, or souvenir stands. Only the desert surrounds it, and for miles, there is not a soul in sight. Tourists from around the globe flock to this site to see the gates of hell with their own eyes, a blazing symbol of human ambition and the power of natural forces. For the authorities, this burning abyss is somewhat like the mausoleum on Red Square in Moscow, where Lenin lies on public display. They can't decide whether to close it or not. No tour of Turkmenistan is complete today without a visit to Darvaza. If you approach the gates of hell on a clear day, it might seem like just a regular hole in the ground, hardly deserving of its ominous, mystical name. But as you get closer, you'll see hundreds of majestic tongues of flame. In some spots, the flames reach heights of 30 to 50 feet. Gas bursts through the sandstone to the surface and ignites, further heating the already scorching air. As dusk falls, the setting sun gives way to the blazing flames within the crater, creating a breathtaking landscape. It's an unforgettable sight. The sky darkens, and the crater's flames grow brighter. You don't have to die to see hell. Standing on the edge of the crater is terrifying, but there's a voice inside that says, "Take a look," and many find themselves frozen in awe, staring into the heart of the inferno in the middle of the vast, lifeless desert. The sight of flames burning amidst the yellow desert sands captivates and intrigues even the most seasoned travelers. Not far from the burning crater are two other similar sinkholes of the same origin. These craters aren't burning, the gas pressure there is much weaker. At the bottom of one crater is bubbling, light gray mud, and at the bottom of the other is a liquid with a turquoise tint. Using directional drilling from more solid areas, two of the three treacherous deposits can be utilized. However, on the site with the turquoise lake, where a water-gas contact has occurred in the layer, extraction is impossible. Scientists have assessed the situation from a scientific standpoint. The Darvaza crater isn't something exceptional. Methane is a compound of hydrogen and carbon. There are similar places in the Kostromar region of Russia where hydrogen seeps out, but nothing burns there due to high humidity. In Azerbaijan, about 15 kilometers from Baku, there's the burning mountain Yanadag. It's been burning since the 13th century, and even Marco Polo wrote about it. No one is planning to extinguish it. In fact, it's protected by law. Tourism experts, along with geologists, note that if there is any economic loss, it can be offset by developing the idea of a tourist center. But it shouldn't just be a hole in the ground fenced off by a barrier. It should be a full-fledged infrastructure with lecture halls, cafes, camping facilities, and a recreational area. As an example to follow, they suggest the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii, which is part of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and brings millions of dollars into the state's coffers every year. Why not give people the opportunity to admire the fire in a civilized way, while addressing safety and comfort issues? In any case, this is a question that the Turkmen authorities will have to answer. The inefficient use of gas has finally motivated the Turkmen authorities to resolve the issue decisively. In 2023, a project was developed to extinguish the Darvaza gas crater. Experts studied various options for addressing the problem of the burning crater and concluded that the only solution is to drill a well near the site that will extract gas from all the layers. The fact is that unregulated flows can be stopped in this way, by extracting more than nature provides, explained a scientist. She also mentioned that the deposit has an extremely complex structure due to the large number of thin layers lying at depths of up to 1 kilometer. Using this method has already led to a significant reduction in methane emissions from the crater. They plan to continue until the gas flow toward the crater ceases. However, no one knows the amount of gas reserves beneath the crater, and it's unknown how many more years it will continue to burn. The study of this phenomenon continues. So, if you've ever wanted to look into the heart of hell, I suggest you don't delay this journey. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.